Hello.
Hi, Cheryl, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just wanted to check.
Okay, thank you. Are you reading? Are you sleeping?
Hi. Oh, 10 o'clock.
Excuse me, it looks like James Gashel is in the waiting room. Can the host admit him?
Okay, we'll go ahead and admit James. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's now 10 a.m. So this meeting of the Statewide Voters with Special Needs Advisory Committee is called to order. It is 10 a.m. on June 23, 2022. This meeting is being conducted by video conference and telephone. We'll go ahead and now take roll call. Ramoda Anand.
Here.
James Gashel.
Here.
Catherine Kane.
Here.
Patricia Morrissey.
Here.
Cheryl Nelson. Cheryl. I saw Cheryl earlier. Cheryl Nelson.
This is Cheryl Nelson here.
Perfect. All right, so we have quorum. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Office of Elections website at elections.hawaii.gov shortly after the conclusion of this meeting. As a reminder to the public, your microphone will be muted until you are called upon. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda as public testimony. As technical issues may arise, we will give each testifier a few moments to try and resolve any connection issues. However, if the issues cannot be resolved, we will have to move on to the next testifier. If you would like to testify, please click raise hand under reactions on Zoom. If you are joining us by phone, please press *9. When recognized, please unmute your microphone before speaking. You may also turn on your video at this time. For the record, please state your first and last name and the items you will be testifying on. For those testifiers joining us by phone, we will not have your name and will be identifying you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. To ensure we will have sufficient time to hear all testimony, each testifier will have 3 minutes to testify. Once your time has expired, you will be asked to conclude your remarks. Let's see, we don't have any names listed under the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. I'll give a few more seconds. So if anyone would like to testify, go ahead and raise hand. Oh, go ahead, Ramona.
I don't have
You don't have any what?
anything to say.
Well, you don't have anything to say yet? Okay. Sorry, he doesn't have anything to say yet. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any testimony. So we're going to head and move on to the next item on the agenda, is introduction of the members. So I will ask each member if they could provide a brief introduction of themselves. And we can begin with Ramona Anand.
Hold on. Just relax and talk slow. It comes out better. Okay, you are. Oh, he's really happy to be here. You have two new. You have two new. Oh, he has cerebral palsy. Thank you, everyone. Aloha. He's glad to be here. Thank you, everyone, and aloha.
Thank you, Ramona. James Gashel.
Thank you. But by the way, for the record, I wonder if the chair here could identify herself, the person conducting the meeting, because I'm not sure I know who it is.
We haven't selected the chair yet, James. So that would be the next on the agenda.
No, I mean you.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Netherlands for the Office of Elections.
Okay.
My apologies.
I thought the record should reflect the person conducting the meeting to begin with. And so appreciate it. And I just don't recognize your voice yet. So yeah, James Gashel here. And I am a blind person. I am legislative chair of the National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii and president of the Honolulu chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii. I'm officially retired. Nobody wants to pay me to do anything else in life, and they don't need to. But my wife and I live here in Honolulu. My career before retirement was my largest time in service was as legislative director of the National Federation of the Blind at the national level for 33 and a half years. That was in Washington, D.C. And I had the opportunity in that position to work on laws like the Voting Rights Act, the Help America Vote Act, and Americans with Disabilities Act, and lots of other laws affecting people with disabilities. So glad to be part of this committee.
Thank you, James. Catherine Kame.
Thank you, Natalie. My name is Catherine Kime officially, but I'm happy to receive my name is Katie Kime, and I am honored to be here today. I have a strong background, not quite as much as some of the rest of you, but for over 27 years, I have been a blind individual. And since that time, I've worked actively as an advocate in the National Federation of the Blind, both locally here in Hawaii and nationally. I have worked for vocational rehabilitation and been the liaison to the federal government and state regulations concerning people with disabilities, employment, and other access issues. I am retired from the government, but still actively working in the private sector. I have a lot of experience, in fact, quite familiar with the Office of Elections, because when the voting machines first showed up in Hawaii, I was one of the testers to help launch some of the first access voting machines in the polls in those days. So it's a pleasure to be part of this team to ensure that all of us with disabilities and special needs have access to our right to vote privately and independently. Mahalo.
Thank you, Catherine. Patricia Morrissey.
Thank you very much, Netherlands. Like everyone else, I'm honored to be part of this committee. I've been in Hawaii permanently since 2016. Before that, I worked in Washington, D.C. And one of my jobs at that time was to oversee the administration of the Help America Vote Act. I was involved directly with drafting all the legislation dealing with people with disabilities from 1981 to 2000. And that included the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Help America Vote Act, as well as many other laws. I worked for the US Congress. I worked for the US Department of Health and Human Services and the US Department of Education. In 2016, I took a position at the university here in Hawaii, the University of Hawaii, as director of the Center on Disability Studies. And I held that position until August of 2020. And I guess the thing that is most important to me is to identify with all voters with special needs in Hawaii so that they can become an active force and shape things that affect their lives.
Thank you, Patricia. And then Cheryl Nelson.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. My name is Cheryl Nelson, and I've been a lifelong advocate for, or sometimes a bumbling advocate for myself. And I also have a lot of professional experience from doing educational puppetry to being the Statewide Independent Living Council's executive director, to training when the Help America Vote Act, they had to train the trainers, and I was one of the trainers, and a bunch of other experiences. And I'm glad to be on this committee to help to assist so that we continuously move forward to make access better for everybody, especially people with disabilities. And if I sound a little bit, my voice doesn't sound quite regular. If you know me, I had COVID, and I am one of the long haul persons with still symptoms. So that's why. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I also want to introduce Reese Nakamura. He is from the Deputy AG's office, and he would be assisting and providing any legal counsel if the committee needs support in that aspect. Oh, let me unmute you, Reese, one moment.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Reese Nakamura. I'm a Deputy Attorney General, and I will be here to assist you in legal matters. If you need to contact me, you can contact me through Netherlands. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reese. And I know you've been communicating with both me and Anthony, so we will be your point of contact to help coordinate any of your meetings moving forward. Anthony, did you want to, he doesn't have video, so I think it's just audio.
Hi, this is Anthony, staff with the Office of Elections, and I'm glad to be here, and thank you all for also serving. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So now we'll move on to the selection of the chairperson. I will hand that off to the committee members to select the chair. I do want to note that I believe it would be needed 3 votes for that person to be selected chair. So
James Gashel here. What I'd like to do is suggest Patricia Morrissey for the chair of the committee.
Katie Kime, I'd be happy to support Patricia Morrissey as chair if she accepts that nomination.
Ramona, sorry.
I agree with that. Ramona agrees to Patricia.
Well, thank you, everyone. I would be honored to serve as your chairperson under the condition that we all work equally hard to make an impact and assist voters with special needs.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
What I was wondering is if we should have a vice chair. I don't know what rules we're under, and we got a lawyer here that can probably tell us. But you know, in the legislature, they always have a vice chair. And what if you can't show up at a meeting and we need somebody else to conduct it? I don't know. I'm just bringing it up as a suggestion, but not any particular recommendation.
I think that's a very good idea. And all the other boards I serve on, we have vice chairs. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I recommend that James Gashel be the vice chair.
He's willing.
Great. Okay, just want to double check. Reese, do I have to do the motion and a vote on this one for both the chair and the vice chair selections, or?
Yes, I would take a vote on this and take a roll call on it. As for the vice chair, nothing is in the statute. This is a brand new statute. Is precluding that, and frankly, I think it's a good idea as well. So you probably want to. Someone can make a motion on both the presidency and the chair and the vice chair. Thank you.
Katie Kime moves for Patricia Morrissey to be chair and James Gashel to be vice chair.
Do we have a second?
We have a second from Amora.
Okay. So looks like I have a motion from committee member Katie to nominate Patricia Morrissey as chair and James Gashel as vice chair. So we'll take a vote. Ramota?
Yeah. He said yes.
Okay. James Gashel?
Aye.
Catherine Cabe?
Aye.
Patricia Morrissey?
Aye.
And Cheryl Nelson?
This is Cheryl. I've been trying to talk since you guys started talking about who should do what, but my line was muted. Could you please leave my line unmuted and I'll mute it on this end when I'm not talking?
Yes.
Yes, I agree with everything.
Okay.
Pat, that's wonderful, and the vice chair, that's great too.
Okay. I have 5 yeses, so the motion carries. So we have Patricia Morrissey as chair and James Gashel as vice chair. All right.
Katie Kime, this may be out of order, but I have a question.
Yes.
For a request. As we form this team of great workers, can we please have access to phone numbers and emails so we can communicate amongst ourselves?
Okay. I can coordinate getting contact information for the members. So I'll go ahead and work on that.
I just want to remind all the members, and I know this is an experienced board, about state sunshine laws. And so if there is any communication, just be mindful of the requirements of the state sunshine law, which you can't have more than a quorum discussing anything. So anything less than the quorum may be fine. And since this is such a small board, I mean, quorum would be 3. So if you have 3 people talking, I mean, that would not be proper. You would need to, at most, have just 2 people talking. I'd just like to remind everyone of that.
Thank you, Reese. This is Katie Kime. I think my request was really based on the coordination of when we do get together meeting sunshine law. And do you know in the statutes whether or not this small of a committee would be allowed a PIG if we had a specific project to work on?
Yes, a PIG is possible. It would need to be voted on and discussed. Yeah, I imagine that this committee itself would have special projects and special issues that may require a PIG. So that's something we can explore further down the line. I appreciate your request to have everyone involved and to have the contacts. Thank you.
Any other comments before we move on to the next agenda? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the presentation by staff of the Office of Elections relating to voter education with voters with disability. Anthony and I will provide an oral presentation for the committee, and we will reserve comments and questions at the end of the presentation. It's a short one, so we'll go ahead and begin. We want to begin by sharing the mission of our office, which is to provide secure, accessible, and convenient election services to all citizens statewide. Our goal is to ensure that Hawaii voters are confident in the integrity of our election process and to remove the barriers that may prevent an eligible person from voting. We do work collaboratively with the county elections divisions to conduct Hawaii elections. The county elections divisions are responsible for voter registration, delivery and return of ballots, as well as the operations of the voter service centers and ballot drop boxes. The Office of Elections is responsible for candidate filing, printing, counting, and tabulation of ballots, and voter education. With voter education, our objectives are to raise awareness about services and elections and to educate the public on the mechanics of voting, such as how to register to vote and how to vote by mail. Focusing on voter education, our office utilizes several tactics to raise public awareness. We do participate in in-person events, such as participating at tabling events at community events. We do voter education presentations, and just recently, we just concluded our voting equipment demo event statewide. We also do participate in virtual events. We've been invited to provide presentations about voter education at monthly meetings for organizations and also some organizations' annual conferences. The materials that we do have available are our voter registration, our absentee applications. We also have a vote by mail brochure. All three of these materials have been translated into Braille and audio with the help of the Library for the Blind. We also have available a vote by mail explainer video, which we have posted on our website for voters to learn more about the voting process. New this year, we produced a Hawaii Votes program where we cover several topics about voting and elections. And these episodes are posted on our website, and the videos do include a description and transcript for the public to view. We also produce a monthly newsletter, which again covers various topics about voting and elections for voters. And we do distribute them monthly to organizations that sign up, and it's also available for the public. We have a sign up sheet on our website if you do want to receive that monthly newsletter. We also do utilize our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, to help put out reminders for voters about important dates and deadlines and to help promote registration opportunities. Since last year, we've been reaching out to various organizations statewide to form partnerships. With the partnership, they've helped us distribute our materials, our voting information materials through their network. So we've worked with different agencies and community organizations. Most recently, we did partner with the Library for the Blind to read the Vote by Mail brochure on its radio reading program. So that's an example of our partnership. We have available a voter hotline. It includes a TTY, and we also do provide language assistance for voters who English is not their first language and they need assistance in another language. They can give our office a call and we can connect them with a translator. Lastly, we have our website, which houses all of our voting information and election information. And I do want to note that the website is accessible, and also our online voter registration system. So those are the different tactics that we use to help promote our voting and election information for the public. I'm going to move on to giving you all a brief overview of the elections and the services that are available for voters. As a background, elections is conducted every even-numbered year. In Hawaii, elections are conducted in the primary in August, and the general election is held in November. For the primary election, it's a nomination process where voters select candidates to represent the political parties that move on to the general election. In the general election, voters may select any candidate regardless of a party affiliation. This year, the primary election will be held on August 13th, and the general election will be on November 8th. Of course, to participate in Hawaii's elections, you must be a registered voter, and Hawaii offers several ways to register to vote. Registration can be completed either online or by mailing in a physical application or visiting a state or county office elections office. And just last year, automatic voter registration did become law. Automatic voter registration allows applicants to register to vote at the DMV when completing an application for a driver's license or a state ID. Of course, as many as you all know, Hawaii did move to elections by mail, starting with the 2020 elections as a result of Act 136. So all registered voters automatically receive a mail ballot. Mail ballot packets arrive about 18 days before election day. Of course, that giving voters ample time to vote and return their ballot. For this coming election, voters should expect to receive their mail ballot packet for the primary by July 26th. And for the general election, they should expect to receive it by October 21st. The mail ballot packet will include a ballot, a secrecy sleeve, and a return ballot envelope. I want to note that voters who are disabled and unable to read standard print, they do have the option to request an accessible electronic ballot that will be emailed to them. An electronic ballot allows the voter to independently mark their ballot using their personal compatible device. Electronic ballots also provide non-visual access to the ballot. Voters who are visually impaired can use a screen reader to have the ballot instructions and ballot choices read to them. We have available on our website a sample of a demonstration of that electronic ballot, so voters can check it out and see if their assistive technology, their device is compatible with the ballot. There are a couple ways to request for the electronic ballot. Voters can visit our website and use the online voter registration system to complete that process, or they can simply fill out a paper application and submit it to their county elections office. I want to note that once a voter does sign up to receive an electronic ballot, they'll continue to receive it for all future elections. When returning a voted ballot, electronic voted ballot, the voter has the choice to either email it back to their county elections division or to use the return ballot envelope that was included in the ballot packet that was mailed to them. If they do choose to mail it that way, they would just simply fold up the ballot summary, place it into the secrecy sleeve, then into the return envelope, and then mail it back to their county elections office. The return envelope is already postage paid, so you don't need to affix a stamp to the envelope. The return ballot envelope has been designed with a tactile marking indicating where the voter is required to sign. So they would just locate that punch hole, and then from there to the edge of the envelope, that's the area where the voter would need to sign. When the voter returns their voted ballot, they must sign the outside of the envelope. It's very important because the signature is used to validate their identity. So if they do not sign the envelope, their ballot won't be counted. The voter has the option to drop off their voted ballot at any Dropbox location. We do have that information, a list of those locations available on our website. So now I'll go ahead and hand it over to Anthony. Anthony's going to share information about ballot tracking and voting in person.
Okay, so first of all, ballot tracks. Voters can track their ballot by signing up to receive notifications by text, email, or by phone, letting them know that their ballot has been mailed or when it has been received. And accepted for counting. To sign up for this free service, go to hawaii.ballottracks.net. Voters who choose to sign up can still check the status of their ballot by logging in on the Ballot Tracks website to receive their ballot status. The alternate to voting from home is to visit a voter service center. A voter service center is an in-person voting facility offering accessible voting and voter registration. Voter service centers are equipped with Verity Touch Writer, which is an accessible ballot marking device. It allows you to mark your ballot independently and privately. The Verity Touch Writer has a number of accessible, friendly features, including easy wheelchair access, audio ballot, tactile navigation through adaptive controllers, and compatible with adaptive tools such as sip and puff devices. Once you are done voting on the Verity Touch, you will print your ballot, then cast your ballot. The printed ballot is the same as the one used by every voter which is mailed, whether you vote at a voter service center or by mail. That concludes our presentation. We'll now open up for any questions.
James Gashel here for a couple of questions and maybe a little comment. So does anybody know how many voter service centers do we now have statewide?
We do have a listing of the voter service centers on our website. I don't have the exact number on top of my head. I know for Oahu, we do have 4, but I believe 2 are limited time, open for not the entire duration of the 10 days. Kauai, I believe, may have, let me see here. I want to say 1. Let me check real quick. We have a total of 11.
Okay,
statewide.
good. Okay, thanks, Nedlin. So now this question, there may not be anybody here with the institutional memory to know, but when we had polling places before vote by mail, how many polling places did we have statewide?
I believe we had over 200 polling places statewide.
Okay, so this leads to my comments. Now, understand, I'm all for vote by mail. I really am. But I've actually had the experience of going from a vote in person to a vote by mail state more than once. Hawaii is my second one. Going way back when I was a kid and I first started to vote at age 21, I was able to, I mean, all we had was in-person voting back at that time. And I never could vote without somebody else's help. The machines back at that time just were not accessible in any way, shape, or form. And this was back in the 1960s. And we didn't expect too much. All we really wanted was the opportunity for someone to assist us. Well, it was kind of variable. The experience would vary according to polling place. Sometimes they would require having a person representing each political party to watch you vote, even if you brought your own assistant, and sometimes not. I worked on the voting rights amendments of 1982 when we got the provision into federal law, which required the individual to have a private right to have an assistant of the voter's own choosing, except the voters' union representative or employer. And so that was really the first breakthrough in any kind of broad scale accessibility requirement. We don't think of a voter assistant as being an accessibility feature necessarily nowadays, but the technology was much different then. By the time we got to the 2000 election, and it didn't work out too clearly, and there was a lot of turmoil over that, it was clear that there would be changes in the voting technology. And so that Congress considered, and Pat knows very well, the Help America Vote Act. Pursuant to the Help America Vote Act, we got the requirement in for accessible voting technology at every polling place. Well, that's what we mostly had back at that time. I think maybe Oregon was a vote by mail state even then, but I don't think anywhere else was. But polling places were the thing. I first voted by myself, privately and independently, as Katie Kime points out, which is the standard under the Help America Vote Act. I first voted privately and independently in 2006. Imagine that. I was 60 years old by that time. So it took from age 21 to age 60 to get private and independent voting. And that was in Baltimore. And so that was good. And I voted there. Then I moved to Colorado, and they turned into a vote by mail state, and they had no means at that point in time, they do now, but they had no means for the voter, as we say, with special needs, to vote privately and independently. So I had to, go hunting for a friend. If you can't find somebody, I guess you should go armed these days. But so I had my wife mark the ballot. I hope she marked the choices I made and not the ones she would make, but I think we pretty much agree, so I'm fairly confident. Now we come to Hawaii. First time I voted in Hawaii, it was not a vote by mail state. We still had polling places, and I voted with the accessible technology, the forerunner to what Anthony was describing. And so that was good. Then in 2019, the vote by mail law passed. And of course, that was good. But as we hear by the statistics, it decreased the access to accessible voting technology, because the accessible voting technology was only available at polling places, and so now we get down to 11, and I think maybe even at that time it was 8 voter service centers, And that's where the accessible technology was. Imagine being on the Big Island and having to travel a couple of hours to get to a voter service center to vote with accessible technology. Of course, if you could see, if there was no other disability which would get in the way of voting by mail, you could always vote by mail, which is really a good thing. My experience with the initial voting by mail was it was less accessible than what I experienced at polling places, as I earlier described. And it was more like the Colorado experience, where although we did have the HTML ballot, so I could mark my ballot okay, but I could not return my ballot okay. And it wasn't real clear where you would sign the envelope at that time. Anthony points out that now it could be because of the hole punched in the envelope. Anyway, my point is the vote by mail process is a very good process for most voters, but poses unique challenges for the Office of Elections to serve voters with special needs to meet the federal requirement of voting privately and independently. And for my money, that's the job of this committee, is to help the Office of Elections get to the point where all voters with special needs are welcomed to vote in a manner that is private and independent. And I want to see us get there. I don't think we'll be able to help fix everything before the 2022 election, but maybe we can help to recommend a few improvements in the process. That's my kind of opening introductory remarks.
Are we all going to make introductory remarks? The two things that are especially of interest to me, and I certainly support what James hoped we work on, and I'm all for it. If we can figure out a way to do it that makes sense and works for everyone. The two things that are important to me is to get a sense of what the voting experience has been for voters with special needs in, say, the past two elections, and to do a survey to find that out if we can, and also in the interest of being as transparent as possible and helpful as possible, to have a web page on the website for the Office of Elections.
I second the motion on both of those, but I know it's not a motion, but I second the motion on both of those. Okay. One of the things has been.
You're muted, James.
Okay, now I know that wasn't a motion, but I was going to say I certainly echo Patricia's comments on that point. I think during the 2020 elections, one of the biggest problems we had, and I know the county offices had, was information about accessible voting. And I can tell you some stories that would pretty much pull your hair out on that subject. So hopefully we can help to get beyond that. And there does need to be, I think Anthony mentioned that there is a demonstration of the electronic ballot information, and there is maybe a chance to practice the electronic voting, but I don't think, and maybe they could correct us for us, I don't think there is anything on the website about electronic voted ballot return. And one of the things, Madam Chair, that I would definitely like us to work on as a high priority matter early is to have more good information out there, and maybe a practice, maybe a demo of how the voted ballot electronic return system works.
And I also, having thought about this issue a little bit, I know that when somebody mails in their ballot, they have to sign something on an envelope that says it's from them, but the ballot itself is then separated from that signature, so that at some point there's no knowledge of any party of who submitted a particular ballot. And I'm thinking that maybe with the electronic ballot, there could be a some type of delivery mechanism electronically that would do the same thing that happens manually with things mailed in. For example, it would be recorded somewhere that person X has voted, but how they voted would be separated from that fact and stored someplace else. It can't be that complicated.
You're muted.
Madam Chair, this is Katie.
Okay.
Thank you. I support all that's been said, and I look forward to working with the team in all these aspects. I have one question for the Office of Elections team. As far as the devices and the electronic ballots, are there specific technology companies that the state works with in the counties so that we can work with them alongside you to ensure that these things are implemented in manners that will best serve the people with special needs voting?
That's really good.
The vendor that we use for our voting equipment is Hart Intercivic. So they're the ones responsible for the accessible ballot marking device that is used at the voter service centers.
What about the HTML ballots? Because Patricia made a good point of the signature is on the envelope when it's submitted. The electronic ballot that I used 2 years ago to vote, the envelope wasn't that accessible with the punch hole. Maybe it's been upgraded, but my ballot didn't necessarily have any identification. It was me that was voting. If they become separated, is there a separate company for the electronic ballots?
We work with 5 seaters on the HTML ballot.
Okay. So then the question is, because our focus is on ensuring voting access for everybody, privately and independently, those are the 2 accessible digital, as you will, or technology access points is different from a human being assisting someone. Are those companies engaged in conversation with the Office of Election that we can work in tandem to ensure our points are addressed? And as individuals who have a lot of experience with the technology, that we may have understanding and points in terms of upgrades to the existing accessible devices that we would have as a working team? Would we have access to them or just through you?
We would work through us, and we would be able to provide comments to the vendors.
So is there an opportunity that we might meet with them publicly at some point in an open meeting?
We will check to see about that. I know right now they've been working with getting the election set up, so
right.
We can definitely check.
I recognize there's a priority going on with August days away in November, but I'm looking to the future, and we have a 5-year commitment is my understanding of this committee. So I'm looking to the future also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, this is Pat. You told me that you had some experience with doing a survey last year or previously. I was wondering if you could share that with the members of the committee, and we at least could look at that as a starting point for maybe getting out the survey. And then maybe the Office of Elections could help us compile a list of organizations that we could share the survey with, so we could get some feedback from people with special needs on what their voting experiences have been.
Yes, I did. So I hope I'm unmuted. So I did develop in 2020, after the primary election, I developed a survey for voters with special needs. We distributed it to, well, I don't know, maybe 100 or more people that I at least could find a way to get at, and got some feedback from that. I can definitely provide that, Pat, to the committee. How should we do this? Do I send it to you? Do I send it to Netherlands? What do we do?
I think getting back to the point that was made earlier about how, you know, there are projects we may work on. That's true, but we have to have a way of being able to communicate with each other about reviewing documents. For example, your survey, or maybe we can get some additional surveys from other states, and share those and comment on those. I guess, Reese, I'd appreciate it if you could tell us how much of this work has to be like public meeting type thing. Because I'm involved with 3 other boards, and we do work all the time that, you know, if we had to meet with the public every time we had a quorum, we'd be up a creek. Is there maybe an exemption for a committee that's this small, or some flexibility? Because I can't imagine a work.
Can we email each other?
Yeah.
Emails are communications as well, but you know, I know the pig was an option, and that was something that you raised. You know, maybe we can, since these I guess this approach that we're going to take on, you know, maybe it's okay to have some brainstorming on the general program today, but I think we would need to put it on another agenda as to, you know, whether we have a pig or you know, some other idea. And we could, you know, you as the chair, we could, you know, or we could even have a motion today to talk about possibly putting these ideas on the next agenda, which I realize it's another meeting, but there may be, you know, I haven't explored fully some of the practical ways that you can address some of these. I'm not sure if you've ever had to do that in other states in your experiences.
No, all the boards that I'm on are, you know, they're not federal. So, you know, there's no sunshine law issues. But I just think how a board, and every board I'm on is different, but the point is boards have to do work to show progress and to meet their mission. And that involves sending letters, for example, to officials, suggesting that something happened, getting input from various groups on things that are of importance, reaching out to experts and asking their opinion on something. I mean, it seems to me that all these are things that, in order for us to be effective, we have to be able to do it. We have to be able to do it in a way that's not cumbersome.
Right.
Katie Kime. Reese, I have a regulations question for you. In the state and federal committees I've worked on, the state ones here in Hawaii have had sunshine law, and the PIG was a very successful working group. Now, all the committees I've been on before were much larger than 5, and most of the PIGs were 5 people. So, but the other thing is, I know you have to put things on the agenda publicly, but I've also been in state committees under the Sunshine Law where a PIG was motioned and approved, or rather a motion was made to add an agenda item openly as we are right now, rather than waiting for the next meeting to make the motion and establish the PIG. Is that an option? Because I've worked in larger committees, not one this small. And I agree with what Pat and others have said. We have to have a way to do our work without breaking the law as well.
Right. Yeah, I would not advise against, deviating from what we have for today on the agenda. In fact, what we're discussing now would probably be more appropriate in a executive session type of meeting. But I do think if we can maybe make a motion to have the PIG, maybe possibly you can have ideas of who you want to be on the PIG. And again, communications between board members, as long as it doesn't violate the Sunshine Law, we have a very small board. Maybe you could have, some of the ideas in mind for the PIG there. And then on the next agenda, maybe we could have, another executive session too on the agenda. But for this first meeting, I would be hesitant to deviate away from what we have right now.
Jim Gashel. Okay. I don't know is it a PIG, P-I-G, or what does it mean?
I'm sorry.
Permitted Interaction Group, Jim.
Which?
It's Permitted like Interaction Group.
Permitted Interaction Group.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Look, I've moved, Pat, if it's okay. I've moved that we create a PIG and a survey PIG, and it consists of 3 members.
Actually, the PIG, since you only have 5, the PIG can be 2 members.
Oh, 2 members. Okay, a 2-member PIG to be appointed by the chair.
Wait a second.
Or volunteer, whatever.
Can we have a PIG that's 5 members?
No, it can't be a quorum.
It can't be a quorum.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is ridiculous.
I know.
Why did they keep this committee home?
I think it'll just require coordination, possibly through the chair.
Okay. Well, let's go back to Jim's motion.
Well, yeah, I guess right now we may be stuck with it, and so I'll make that a motion for the purposes of developing and designing and recommending to the full committee a survey.
Okay, it's great, and I second it, and so now we have to have a vote.
All right, Jim, could you repeat the motion?
Okay, I move that the advisory committee create a PIG for the purpose of developing a voters with special needs survey and recommending the survey for approval by the full committee.
Now,
80 times seconds, unless it was already.
Okay. So a second by, was that Katie?
No, Pat.
Pat, okay, by Pat. All right, and then we'll take the vote. Ramota Anand.
Hi, Ramota says yes.
Yes, okay. James Gashel.
Aye.
Katie Kang,
Aye.
Patricia Morrissey,
Aye.
and Cheryl Nelson.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
This is Cheryl. I was sitting here. Thanks, Jim, for asking what a pig was, because I was sitting here going, "Are they saying pig? P-I-G?"
I apologize. I work too long with state acronyms. I seriously apologize, but I love the name, the acronym.
What does PIG stand for again?
Permitted Interaction Group.
Oh my God.
You've heard it all.
I know. Okay, so now do we have to vote on, how do we go about this, picking the members of the PIG?
My motion was you pick them, or
I
they
believe
volunteer.
we would need
They
to
volunteer.
save that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I believe that would have to be for the next agenda, Pat, Chair. So we would have to put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Why?
I believe we have to stick with the items on the current agenda. So this one, since it's not on this current agenda, we would have to put it on the next agenda.
But we just had a vote that we would create a PIG. In order for the PIG to be real, you got to have people on it.
I believe you can have a motion to create the PIG for the next meeting, but you can think for yourselves who should be on the PIG, so we can go right into it in the next meeting.
Okay, can I ask a question? This is going to be a freaking nightmare, but anyway, that's just my opinion. Can we help shape the next agenda so that what we want to cover on the agenda is on the agenda, so we don't have to postpone stuff?
Yes. So I would.
How do we do that? I mean, who do we contact? You, Netherlands?
Yes, you would contact me, Pat.
Okay, I don't have your email at this point.
Yes.
So okay. So one thing I'm not making a motion. I'm just requesting. It's very important that we be as efficient as we possibly can, in spite of these clever sunshine requirements. So if you could send us as soon as possible each other's contact information, that would be really good, including you and Reese, and of course I already have Anthony, and then all the members of the board. And then we also, now, when can we meet again? Is that set by the sunshine law, or can we pick a time we can meet in the very near future?
Committee would choose when they would like to meet again.
Okay. I think there's one item. Well, we don't get to discuss this, I guess, but is the issue of having a web page. I think the fact that we need a way to communicate with the public established quickly, so we'll have more public interest in what we do, has to be established somehow in this meeting as well. So can I make that a motion or what?
I do want to note there is currently a special a web page on the Office of Elections, which lists the committee and its duties and the members. So if you take a look at it, maybe that might be something you might want to add the information onto, or were you looking at something completely brand new?
I think the committee should have its own web page. I mean, if we really want to be dynamic and active and engage the public, I think we should have a web page. I'm not saying a website. I'm just saying a web page. Where we can post things and ask people questions and that sort of thing. So I would like to make a motion that this committee have a web page on the Office of Elections website where it can share information and ask questions of the public.
I'll second that. I don't know how I don't know the particulars of how a person posts to a web page. I mean, I know about Facebook.
Well, I mean, that's
yeah.
a whole other thing. I mean, you know, social media, I'd love for us to be involved in social media, but I thought the best thing was to start with a web page.
But no, I agree. I mean, I completely agree. And I second it, so.
Okay, so there's a motion to have a web page on the Office of Elections website to share information for the public.
Right.
That's my motion, correct. I mean, yeah, it's Pat's motion, I second it.
So we'll take a vote, and this will be on the next agenda to talk about on the next agenda, correct? Is that? Okay, all right. We'll take the vote. Ramoda Anand.
Ramoda says yes.
Uh-oh.
Okay. James Gashel.
Aye.
Katie Kime.
Aye.
Patricia Morrissey.
Aye.
And Cheryl Nelson.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Katie Kime. Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. This is another question for Nadalyn and Reese and Anthony. My understanding is the purpose of this agenda is organizational of this committee. And if all these items are organizational, what's the reason not to be putting them into action now for their implementation immediately?
I think that question's for Reese.
Yeah, on the agenda itself, I see where you're all going, and I know I understand the problem. I guess just because the agenda is specific to it has specific items. I'm looking at the agenda now. It doesn't cover what we're talking about specifically, and I don't want to deviate away from it just for sunshine purposes. And I think what you're doing now is setting the agenda for the next meeting, which will be more productive as far as addressing those specific issues. But I don't want to deviate from the agenda we have now. So.
Gashel.
Yes.
And to be recognized by the chair, I think.
Oh, okay.
I was going to make a motion again, this is an agenda item for the next meeting, since I think that's about what we're limited to here. That we receive a presentation and hold a discussion on electronic voted ballot return process.
I second that. This is Pat.
All right, so I have a motion from James Gashel to receive presentation and hold a discussion on electronic voted ballot return process. Second by Pat Morrissey. We'll take a vote. Ramoda Anand.
Yes.
James Gashel.
Aye.
Catherine Kang.
Aye.
Patricia Morrissey.
Aye.
And Cheryl Nelson.
Yes, aye.
Motion passes.
This is Cheryl, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I was kind of sitting here thinking that perhaps in our agenda making, if we make the agenda, for example, just what we just did, a discussion on on the voting machines, but if we make the agenda like more general, and then, you know, discussion on, I don't know, on every access point of voting, or so, you know, something where we can fit more things in there because it's a more broad subject matter, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going. What I thought is that you know, we're learning about Sunshine Law today, Cheryl, and
right.
I endorse your idea, but I think to get some things going, at least that we stick to these specifics as part of the next agenda, and that we add to that agenda some broader topics that these may fall under, but just so we're covered. You know, I have never, this is wild. You know, I was on an advisory committee dealing with autism for the National Institutes of Health. And we had the federal Sunshine Law, but we didn't have these issues. This is amazing. I think I would really appreciate a copy of the Hawaii Sunset Law emailed to me so I can become more familiar with it. And like Cheryl's suggestion, that we become informed so that we can find ways that give us some degree of flexibility.
Katie Kime.
Hi, Katie. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a question again for Reese because I don't recall exactly, and Sunshine Law has been updated since I actually worked with it. But at some point, how do you establish standing committees as different from PIGs so that if there are certain items that need to be done, and I mean, I don't know that we want them. I'm just bringing it up because it seems to me they were used in some of the boards I worked with in the state before.
Can you give an example of the standing committee that you worked on?
Well, for instance, you referenced executive session. So what under Sunshine means that we can meet in an executive session without the public, because to me, it's usually legal matters or personnel matters or along those lines. I don't know what it is for a committee like this, but if there's a standing committee that might be established. I don't have one in mind right now, and I can't think of one. It's been a number of years since I've worked with state government.
Well, this committee is established by statute. There's
Correct.
nothing that authorizes the establishment of a standing committee. So we're focusing on this committee.
Okay.
But your understanding of the executive sessions, the topics and the scope and subject matter is correct. It's legal matters, personnel matters, typically, but we'd have to have motions to go into an executive session. And by the way, that requires a 2/3 majority vote. And so because we have 5 members here, that would require 4 members to vote in favor of moving to the executive session. Here, it's a simple majority for the other topics, but
does the Sunshine Law spell out when you can use an executive session?
Yes. Okay. All of the Sunshine Laws, we'll try to get more information to you for sure as you requested, but just for your information, under the Hawaii statutes, they're under Chapter 92. And that whole chapter is entitled Public Agency Meetings and Records. So as far as boards, quorum, meetings, those are all in in let's see, in chapter 92. So those are that's the guiding principles we've been going through. Specifically 92, well, starting in 92 section 1.
Well, if you could
pretty much, yeah.
If you send me a link to where I find it, that's all I need.
Oh, okay.
I have another practical question, and that is, okay, let's say that we decide that we would like to have, to do a survey of all the people in the state with special needs that might care to comment on their past voting experience. Who is going to help us pull this off? If we draft a survey in our PIG and it's ready to go, and we also have reached out and found all kinds of associations to contact to help us with this, who's going to actually do the work?
I would have to defer to the Office of Elections. Again, their function is primarily, and Netherland, you can comment on that.
Yes, we will provide the administrative support to the committee.
Okay.
So, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just a slightly different topic, Pat. So if you want to finish that, then I'd like to be recognized.
I'm just glad to know that we have physical help, to pull these things off.
Okay, so I was wondering, relative to Cheryl's comment, which I think is very helpful, couldn't we, as a standard, maybe this is a question for Reese, but as a standard agenda, as standard agenda items, could we not have an item that says the committee may vote to go into executive session, and just put that phrase as a regular part of our agenda? It doesn't obligate us to go into executive session, but it does give the public notice that we may go into executive session. Could we do that?
Yes, the answer is yes, and it's been done before.
Okay, all right. Now, could we also, as a regular agenda item, say discussion of, I'm trying to design inartfully here, obviously, but a broad phrase of discussion of identified special needs or something like that, a general phrase that would allow us to bring up just about anything under the topic of voters with special needs. So we're not hamstrung to a certain narrowly defined set of topics.
Like, for example, access issues for voters with special needs.
Exactly.
Which I would support wholeheartedly, and I think that's what the loophole I was looking for in standing.
Basically, on every agenda, we would put that phrase and the notice that we may go into executive session. Could we do that, Reese?
I just want to clarify. Executive session, again, as mentioned earlier, it's going to be limited to legal issues and possibly personnel issues. So if we're going to talk about other issues we have to do in an open meeting. And mechanically what happens is, Netherland can explain, when we go into executive session, we'll have a Zoom meeting just among the committee members, myself, Netherland, and the public will be excluded. As for a broad topic, it's kind of a catch-all topic to allow for free-flowing discussion. And I understand where why you would want it, and that's kind of the purpose of this committee. You know, let me get back to you on that. I will have to see, because again, this is such a special committee. I'm sorry.
The consequence, Reese, is if we don't have something like that, the consequence is every time something that we didn't think about before comes up, we have to wait to the next meeting to deal with it.
I get it. Yeah, I understand where you're going with this, and
it's public anyway. So I mean, we're not in a session.
I understand where you're going.
So it's not like we're trying to hide something,
right?
You know.
Yeah.
And who knows, the public may have suggestions about how we could do it. You know, if it was a challenge that we faced.
Right. Let me get back to you on that. Again, those types of items, probably because they're operational and would require, as you said, public input. Those would probably have to be on open meetings. But as far as putting it on an agenda, let me get back to you just to make sure if that's okay. Just because typically agendas are specific and they state what you're going to talk about, but I understand this committee and what they're trying to do. So we will communicate with you.
I mean, I feel a slight sense of urgency, and I have a strong interest in us establishing credibility early on, because we have a primary coming up in mid-August. And I would like more of the public to know about us by then, and that we have something concrete that we can share with them that we're working on to make things better. So, as much as we can do to delay because of a procedural issue, I would really support that.
Okay. We'll get back to you on.
Gashel.
Yes.
Oh, this is back to the chair, Reese. I don't think it's a legal question.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. So since one of the topics was voter education, that Netherland and Anthony spoke to that. Madam Chair, could we go back? I think this gets to the point you were just making. I have a point of view that is that the Office of Elections needs to do much more in advance of the August 13 primary to inform voters, all voters, about accessibility options for voting. It's all, even the presentation today was primarily framed around, you get your ballot in the mail and you mark it and you put it in the envelope and you sign it and you put it back in the mail. Now, it wasn't exclusively that, because Netherland explained some things, and Anthony, about the accessibility, but it takes a back seat. The emphasis by the Office of Elections since vote by mail has all been on, hey guys, you all get to vote by mail. I think we need some special outreach to the whole community, emphasizing accessibility options for voting.
I think I support that, but I think what we have to do as people with disabilities is to give them specific examples of how they can pull that off. Because right now, it's like you said, the emphasis is on send your ballot in. And aren't you lucky that you get to do it? So I think we need to provide Netherland and Anthony and others the kinds of things that we think could be added to their tool chest that they could work on between now and August 13th.
So one example would be, I know they put stuff out on YouTube, for example. So a YouTube presentation on accessible voting options, that would be one. And I would recommend they do that. Now they can tell us other ways of communication they have. I know about YouTube. How about they're on Twitter? So they could tweet about accessible voting options. I know they do that. They're on Facebook. They could Facebook about accessible voting options. And we could review content, but I just think something needs to be done more than the way you just described it, which is, aren't we all lucky we get to vote by mail? Just do it and send it in.
Yeah.
So this is Cheryl. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm thinking what we're sort of talking about is, and I hate to use the word marketing, but how are we going to, market the access voting? I think that's what we're really talking about, is using vehicles, even the radio and stuff to say, voting in Hawaii for everyone, whatever we say. But I think that's what we're talking about is marketing, if you will, the accessibility for everyone.
Yes, that's what we are talking about. And, so the options are out there. We just have to emphasize them. That's it.
To everyone, not just in this case. What I'm talking about here, Pat, is not just some list of disability groups or something like that, but in their public facing marketing, and I like the term, Cheryl, in their public facing marketing, emphasize accessible options for voting.
Yes, no, I agree with you. Because the term of this, the name of this committee is so broad, it covers a lot of people out there. So it might as well cover everybody at this point on the issue of accessibility.
Hi there.
Go ahead, Kate.
Thank you. I absolutely wholeheartedly support this idea. And this goes back to a logistics question. To make a request from this committee to the Office of Elections to use what's existing in that broad marketing, do we have to give instruction on the agenda, or can we just say, go do it? And I don't know those factors of logistics, which brings me back to, can we schedule our next meeting as soon as next week or the following week? I don't know those rules, but I think some of those logistics would be helpful to get this ball moving, as we're all feeling the frustration of the Sunshine Law, but
Madam Chair,
we want to act on it.
Madam Chair, they put voter education on the agenda. So we are completely within the agenda that Office of Elections wrote. We'll write the next one. But they put voter education. So my suggestion here, and I can turn it into a motion, maybe probably should, is completely, my opinion is, I'm not the lawyer like Reese is, but my opinion is that this fits with the announced agenda.
Yes, yeah. And the point is that if we can help with modification of existing material that could be used in marketing messages, if Netherland and Anthony direct us to the right place to make it more powerful and to help them with getting the word out, and to make sure that in every message the word accessibility or accessible is part of the message. And so Go ahead and make. Go ahead.
Okay, let me make that motion, and I'm glad you emphasized that. You know, the law, of course, is the word voter with special needs, but I think for public purposes, we should be using the word accessible or accessibility. And I like your point about every marketing message. So I'm going to make the motion that this committee recommend to the Office of Elections that in future marketing announcements for the 2022 primary election and general election, that accessible options for voting be emphasized to an extent that such options are mentioned in all marketing messages.
Katie Kime seconds.
Okay.
Cheryl Nelson third.
Pat Morrissey fourth.
I'll go ahead and take a vote on that. Ramona Anand.
This is Cheryl. I think that when we do that, that it also serves as an education for people who don't know anything about people with the, you mean those people vote, you know, kind of thing. You know, it does also serve as an educational point.
Yeah.
Ramona Anand. We're going to take a vote on the motion by Jim for the committee to recommend that future marketing materials be included in future elections, that accessible options for voting be emphasized to the extent that all marketing material messaging include accessible voting.
Yeah. I agree.
James Gashel.
Aye.
Catherine Kine.
Aye.
Patricia Morrissey.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Hey, what about me?
Oh, sorry. Sharon
I
Nelson.
wondered.
Oh, yeah.
What happened to Cheryl?
Sharon Nelson.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Madam Chair, Pat,
Yes.
this is Anthony.
Okay, Anthony.
I just wanted to comment and thank you for making that motion. I know that James was mentioning about videos and YouTube, and as Netherland was mentioning that folks can subscribe, you know, to Facebook or even subscribe to receive updated newsletters, and just wanted to also let you know that in our past, I believe it was March, and I think it was one of the other newsletters that we did feature voters with special needs. We also did have a video in regards to that, and there was another one in regards to voters with special conditions, for example.
And the point that we're making is we want to take the specialness out of it and use the word accessible and accessibility instead. That's what we're after here.
Sounds good. Yes.
Because when I saw
we're tired of being special.
I totally agree.
It also addresses, as was stated, the broader spectrum of all voters, not just those with, quote, special needs. But yeah, because accessibility is an issue regardless of disability.
These special needs imply some type of limitation or exception or unique accommodation. And I want to get past that because the term, generally speaking, could could apply to probably 3/4 of the Hawaiian population. You know,
Yeah.
the elderly, people that live in remote places, the people that can't find a babysitter, you know, so let's just try to promote inclusivity. That's what we're after here, you know, not specialness. So we have to pick a date, hopefully next week, to get together again, right? To cover the items we couldn't cover today, correct?
How long in advance do we have to post an agenda?
That's a good point.
The
Isn't
agenda
it
needs to be
7 working days?
6 days.
6 or 7?
6 days.
Yeah.
6
But
days.
is it 6 calendar days or 6 working days?
6 calendar days.
6 calendar
Okay.
days.
Okay, so today is Thursday,
23rd.
and what's next Thursday?
30th.
The 30th.
Right? 30th.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the day before the 4th of July weekend starts, right? Or, you know, generally speaking. So that will work.
Right.
I think we could work if that. I don't know if Reese thinks we could meet that soon.
Okay, but you know, we have kind of the agenda. The only thing we don't have is whether he's going to allow us, or the law will allow us, to have an open-ended question. We've got everything else to the agenda. So Netherlands could do a draft agenda and give it to us later this afternoon, and we could, you know, basically send her an email back saying that's fine, and it could go out before 4 o'clock.
Amen.
Hi, I just want to, I'm not sure if Netherlands, you can do that. I'm not sure if I can meet that. I may need another day. I might need another day. What's
Okay,
the 31st, July 1st?
Yeah, but see that people are going to start going, well, I mean, I'm available. There's only 5 of us involved here. So I guess I'm available on Friday.
Sure.
I can do Friday, July 1.
I can do that too.
I can do Friday, July 1 better than the 30th because I'm on a plane and I can zoom in from remote location.
Yeah.
All right.
That's fine. I mean, I'm sorry, James. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm going to work as quickly as possible. I have other cases. So, okay. I mean, 31st. Yeah, I guess.
No, the 30th.
No, 30.
That'll be the
30
first.
days.
The first. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still going to have to, I'm still going to have to get it in by tomorrow. Let's see, I'm not sure. How about, okay, that's the Monday for, realistically, how about the 5th, July 5th? I'm sorry.
Why can't, I mean, how long does it take to write an agenda? We could write it for you.
No, but you need, well, I'm going to have to look this up, but.
Well, wait a minute. Gashel here.
Yes.
Why don't we just talk, wait, Reese.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I have a solution here.
Okay.
You don't have to do any research. The agenda item is voter education.
Well, I'm still gonna have to look it up, but and just to be sure, I just don't want anybody here to violate anything.
So
just because on the 1st, that still would require, the 6 days would still require the filing on the 24th.
Gashel.
It's possible. Okay. Well, why don't let's.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. Here.
Oh, God.
What if we Reese has already said we could put in our any agenda notice that we may enter into executive session. He's already said that. So I don't think that requires any research. The one point he has to research at some point is, can we adopt a general, we don't want to say it quite this way, but open discussion type topic? Well, we could. We've already got several items that we've voted to list on the agenda for the next meeting. So we could go ahead and do that and leave off the general one until Reese gets us better information on that. Put the possibility of executive session in case we wanted to do that, and go with the agenda items we have decided on, and we could post that agenda tomorrow.
I agree with that. I think if we have the executive session, which we put it on, then whatever we have to confirm regarding whether you can have a general access to special needs, that issue can be addressed in the executive session. But the rest of it, it seems like we have, so.
Okay, good. So, all right, when are we gonna meet?
So we could meet June 30th or July 1st?
July 1.
30th, July 1, either one.
July 1. Vote. I move we meet at 10 a.m. July 1 via Zoom. Although at some point, I don't know, but at some point I'd like to bring up the subject of in-person meetings, and maybe we could put that on the agenda for the next meeting. I don't know. I'd like to meet with you guys in person at some point.
Yeah.
Katie Kime seconds that motion. July
Good.
1st, 10 a.m. via Zoom.
Okay.
Well, if we're gonna meet in person anytime in the future, we gotta do it here at my place because I'm having scooter issues.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Zoom for the time being.
I know. I have a throttle. I have an Israeli scooter and nobody here will repair it. So I gotta figure out what the hell.
Oh my God.
Oh, gracious.
Yeah. So,
anyway, this one's Zoom. So.
Okay, good. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn, or do we have more things to do?
Gash will move.
I make a motion.
Oh, go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah, I make a motion that this meeting be adjourned.
Okay.
Second.
I have one question. We're all agreeing on that. We didn't have to take a motion on meeting on the 1st, correct?
Oh.
Correct.
Okay. We just agreed to it. Okay, good. Great.
Is that true? Is that true? We don't know. But Netherlands, Reese, what do we have to do?
I got it down, July 1st.
Oh, okay, all right, good.
Okay.
Excuse me, for Ramona, July 1st is another Zoom meeting?
Yes.
At what time?
10 a.m.
10 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, at 10, July 1st.
Now, do we have to vote on adjourning, or can we just adjourn?
No, you can do, if we all agree sort of just by saying it, then you just can declare the meeting's adjourned.
Okay, thank you very much. I declare the meeting's adjourned.
Okay. All right, we better, in order to be legal, we better not say another word.
Hey, Pat, are you still on the phone?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Do you have a few minutes? Can I give you a call? It's Cheryl.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
My telephone number is 703-405-0925.
Okay, wait now.
703-405-0925. 703-405